Welcome back to Potatoes, to episode 10 of Empyrion Galactic Survival Multiplayer on Grampus Gaming, the Lost City of Soul server. See in front of us, the last sunrise we shall see from the cemetery. The ship that I have mentioned in a few of my previous episodes has come to bear. It is now completed. And as you can see in the factory in a ready to spawn state. We'll show you now a brief video of me placing the last of the ingots in because I was uncertain whether it would work or not, because as you have witnessed in an episode or two I have had in the past, on occasion things go wrong. And here we are, ready to place the last ingots into the Crypt-Star-Carrier. As you can see, I have managed to reduce production time to 1 second. A lot of combat steel blocks and windows. So go ahead and shift-click these over. And start production. And blueprint complete. So now we have the Crypt-Star Destroyer. Geez, I keep saying that. That's ready to roll. So now we're on our way to his base. As you can see, he is typing there. And as you've now seen, things can go right as well. So, with that, we shall be off. It is a matter of the three options of how to go about this. My original plan was to spawn a small base and make a large platform, which would have to be approximately 60 by 100 blocks. Thankfully, however, Gamer Keller already has a base that large. It is in Mars space. As you can see on the screen, we have been chatting. I'm just making my launch videos now to head that direction, and we will then spawn my ship on his base. I have not done a space spawn as yet since they have made the changes, so we will see how that goes, but hopefully it will go well. Until then, we will travel that direction and go from there. Now, as I am taking off, there's something else I will mention. Is that I told Gamer Keller I was coming bearing gifts. He does not know it yet, but he is about to become the owner of 2 new vessels. The Wraith, which I have parked on the back. Not sure if I can zoom in enough to see it, really. On your left, as you're looking at the ship currently, is parked there. That will not be used on the new ship because it is simply too large. I do love the design, however, so I'd love to see it used. I am also planning to hand him the keys to the cemetery itself. I will leave that behind on his base, and he and or Gamer or Legend Alpha Omega rather can use it at their convenience. I will let him know as I am there this evening, of course, so by the time this video airs, he will be aware of it. But as I am speaking to you currently, as I am traveling, he has no idea this is coming. And now we have landed, or arrived rather, in Mars orbit. We have 6 kilometers to go to his space station, so we're on the final approach. And as we do this, let's think about what it took to build such a ship. It is so large, it did take a few weeks. So here's some footage as it grew from stage 1 and stages along the way. So I am now beginning the crypt. This is step 1 we see in front of us. It's just the hangar door. It's going to be on the lower level. This is a 9 by 5 instead of a 7 by 5, so it's slightly wider than the ones, but the same height as the ones on the cemetery behind us. I am not sure exactly. I just kind of sticking things on for sizing purposes. But we're going to have a deck that's at least this big on the inside. I think larger on the lower level. This will just be for the hover vessels. I'll have room for at least 2 of the zombies, possibly more, and we'll see what else we can put in here. And then there will be a level up above that will be fully enclosed for the small vessels, and then we'll be putting our weapons and things like that, decorations around that. Inside the very core of the ship will be our growing plots. I'm not sure if I'm going to do windows or not. It's a matter of safety. We'll see how that goes. But that's it for the beginning and the projected plans for this vessel. And we'll see how long it takes me. I am starting it on January 29th. And as real world time progresses, this is actually about 1 day later. I've enclosed quite a bit. This has grown up quite a bit. This is now a 13 by 7 gate, I believe. Yep, 13 by 7. You can see in the lower right. So it's quite a bit larger. And inside, once we go in with the ramp, you'll see I have it painted. These are markings for 2 zombies, so it's a much larger area inside. So much for it being a smaller vessel. I was going to keep it under class 10. Clearly that is not going to happen. But that will be for the 2 zombies. This is actually now enclosed, lightly painted, so we're making some forward headway. Then the next room will be, I don't know, medical facilities, something. Whether I go the full width or not, I'm not certain. But this area, this door is big enough to fit a Spectre, and if you fly in sideways, you can land in here. So that is what I have progressed on the lower levels so far. You can see there's the Spectre off to the side, so there's actually room to spare right now. I'm not certain exactly how I will allocate it out, but more toying as it goes. All the engines, these are all large or extra large engines. They look like smaller ones, so it's deceivingly large in size. And just to compare with the size here as well, you can see it next to the cemetery. It already is nearly the same size. I think it's actually got more to it in bulk, but the shape is different since there is more enclosures on the inside. There will be a lot of idle space. The top and the back here, I think this will likely become, this is actually 3 high, so this will become the garden area, and then coming in above where the Spectre came in, we'll have some internal landing for spirits and liches. Then we'll put the cockpit somewhere. Not sure if we'll put it up front or in the back. This little spindle off the front here is gravity, and the light that can get brought in a little closer, but that's about the range of where a second gravity generator would need to be. So decide whether I want to go forward or up is really the main question on my mind as I'm looking at it currently. And things are continuing to progress along. You can see it's nearly the same size. Again, it's actually a little bigger, I think, in area, though the dimensions, actually, it's not quite as long, but that's fine. We got quite a few additional growing plots, just about enclosed in. Need to do a roof across the top, but there will be quite a few growing lots in the area. And then I still working on details how I'm going to do this. I think I will set up a cockpit area here, basically, and then have the landing for the other small vessels here, and the nose is the way to go. I can go in a couple doors in the sides, do the double doors much as I did here, and that will keep it a little thinner. Of course, there is a second level underneath, remember, that will be here as well. So the growth continues as we proceed further. And here further along, as you can see, we continue to shift things to make them fit a little better. Often it's one block at a time. You can see the hangers up front. I've changed to a smaller door for the liches, but the result of that is that we'll have to move it back a few blocks. So it's a lot of rinse and repeat. Starting to form the shapes together, though, to get our shape back here. Kind of work around. That will still become a cockpit, I think, but we will have more than one, certainly, on a ship of this size. So gradually making headway. You can tell where I've worked, kind of as usual. Blocks that are not colored are the new ones, and color kind of is a shift. I do it layer by layer, so every block gets painted entirely. It's always been a pet grief of mine of working with sometimes some of the other blueprints that I get on occasion when people only paint the outside of the block, or don't paint them all. I guess that's part of my completionism showing through. Anyway, continue on and make some further headway and enclosing more, and then we'll see where we're going to go next. And assembly continues. I've gone down to the planet actually to pick up a couple of hover vessels so we can see how they will fit. 2 zombies and a mummy, with plenty of room to walk around them and the like in the back. To have constructors set. I think I may have mentioned that already. I'm forgetting now. But have 8 set up. All of the landing bays are now enclosed and sized up. That will be the size they will end up being. I do need to continue with glass. These at 4 each. As you can see, they have 1,000 hit points. But the 1x1 squares also have 1,000 hit points. But you need 4 of them. So the converse effect is that the 2x2 blocks are only a quarter as strong. In front of that, the next thing we've begun to assemble is the front engine blocks, 1 in each corner. So now you end up having 4 sections of engines. They're just kind of clumped together, so they do risk the chain reaction, I admit. However, with 4 blocks, each of which has engines in each direction, they will be okay, even if 1 or 2 of them gets entirely gutted in a heavy fight. That's the next of the battle. We'll continue enclosing these and proceed a walkway forward, which will end up being to the forward drill assembly, which will go in this general area, and then we'll start moving towards weaponry. So to start off with this clip, first thing you will notice, you can see that the windows have all been replaced. They're all the 1x1 blocks. Now that really increased the class size by 3, believe it or not, because it was so many more blocks. It was another 2,500 blocks by the time I was done with that. At any rate, I've also continued on, started adding some weapons to the sides I had allocated for them. Actually put the artillery turrets towards the front. Those are the longest range of the space weapons, so it doesn't make sense to put them in the back of the ship. It seems to me the wise choice is to put them closer to the front. That way, the remainder of the ship is further out of range from whatever you're attacking in front of you. I have completed enclosing the weapons, as you can see, or the engines rather. Also got some of the front weapons on top for the rail, but we're going to leave this open in the space so we can see through the windows, and we've got the walkways completed, though I need to glass in this other side, of course. That will go up to the forward cockpit, which will assemble into the grills out front. This will also give us access way going down to a entrance way in the front near the front landing gear, which will be round about this area, a lot larger of course. And we'll start to shape the engines a little better, so it will be kind of a dual-headed fork, if you will. So we'll continue on and closing the rest of the walkway, and probably glass over the top to smooth it out in the outer there. And we will build the cockpit. Once the cockpit is complete, I'll bring you back in and see what else I putter with in the meantime. Oh, I should also continue on that I have completed all the inside as well. All the windows on the inside are also the 1x1 blocks, and I even doubled up the layers in the rear cockpit, which still needs a lot of work of course, but this is still the basic area it will be. And as mentioned before, we will work on enclosing the engines and proceeding forward with the neck that will go out to the cockpit. We've pretty much got that enclosed. We have two options which I am contemplating. This is the original I had done, which is actually only 2 blocks in front of the forward engine. So from the forward position that might not get much protection, but the front cockpit will be in front of it as well, so that will be behind as well. The other option, which I've considered, is to do something along these lines. We can make it too deep with these slopes and then close it off with the same 4 in the front here over the front, but then we will have an additional row of blocks solid in front and space to put a couple spotlights, which will, because we need to find some homes for those. The front cockpit is primarily going to be a glass bubble. It will be a very high visible area, but I would like to get enough solid structures that we can squirrel some things like spotlights away that will be out of sight and under protection. So as building progresses, as you can see, I did enclose the engines with the extended. Did a little bit of texture work with it as well. Also altered the guns a little bit. Had mentioned previously about places for some spotlights. Each of the turret towers has a spotlight in it, a level in, so it's completely contained with a level of combat steel. And it also raises the turrets out to help draw fire away from the vulnerable gates a little bit. Then we move forward and we've pretty much enclosed the cockpit. Have some more weapons on the front. Have double layer of protection everywhere. Full array of healing, along with a exit out. We'll be out this side with the ramp, which has the spotlight above. This will be a bit of storage, perhaps, and likely the spotlights as well for the front drill area. The drill will come off the front, so it will be out likely below, I think, for the lower drill. And the upper will be right in line with this deck. And then for the multi-turrets, we'll do them sideways, so the lower drill will actually be in front of them just a bit. We'll do them sideways here and here, so we can work in front of the ship. Then we will continue with storage inside. Likely start setting up some cargo areas for ores and the like immediately next to the refineries, and then we'll start putting them underneath in the belly of the ship. So as you can see, we've certainly made headway and pretty much enclosed the cockpit. Decided to go with 2 and 2, so we got mining drills on the top and bottom, and the multi-turrets on the left and right. We've got it completely closed in the belly for the entire head, though only on this side. So this will be basically what it's shaped like. Painting yet to be done, of course, but I left the other side open here so you can see what's inside. Bunch of additional RCS. A little bit of oxygen, some spotlights, etc. Then I proceeded to go through. Let's go inside. I was talking about storage. We have a bunch of storage set up for a hands-on approach. It's more or less my standard personal cargo, but I put this on the floor of the main bridge. It's relatively well protected, I think, and labeled them with LCDs, all of which are powered by the switch. You see the lights go on and off as I have motion sensors set up for many areas. But I am working very much on the logic. Have a number of circuits set up. These are the motion zones, each of which is going to be motions for a different light, some of which are completed, as you can see, some of which have yet to be done. Started in the front and I'm working back. But as we go back down the center, you can see the lights. There are lights in every zone. You can see there's a motion sensor over here. This one is not set up. Should have exited upstairs, but as you see, as we come close, the gate is opening and closing. That will do it either by person or from above. It turns the lights on as well. Same thing in the Spectre. From one away, it'll close next door. And it will continue to do that through the ship. The lights are set here. We've got some decorations in place. And then down below, I'm working on setting this one up. This is only in process because we're starting to get to the point where we're going to start having some hidden sensors. We've also continued our cargo setup in here with the factories. Again, with LCDs, these will end up being our ores and ingots. Have to get them all labeled appropriately. For the primary, there will be additional storage down below because there's still a lot of space down here to utilize. This bar here signifies what will be the belly of the beast, up as far as this underneath. We've also continued working up above and extending our decks. All the decks will come out one row like this. The upper level is done on the outside, and down below as I do these is part of what's causing the delay, because I will find a home underneath, kind of back here somewhere for the motion sensors for the outward motion. So it will run as the Spectre does. They will all open at about the same time. Also putting some additional oxygen and fuel on the outsides. These are all encased within a specific and additional layer of the combat steel, so it will be compartmentalized to an extent. Also have the weapons laid out more or less where they're going to go. Actual proper placement needs to be done as yet, but these are the general areas of the ship that the remainder weapons are determined to be placed. The last thing that should be worth mentioning for the moment is that I have set up a number of signals, which would be the final use. Haven't decided what to do for the last. I've often set that up as passengers. That may be what I use it for if I don't have something else. But these will begin, the custom will get set up once I finish streamlining the control panel. The signals, however, I'm setting up individually for the lights because those will not get altered when I use the auto group section or button. So I've been using that quite a bit to give us an idea of exactly how many of each device I have. I have finished compartmentalizing the greenhouse with these force fields going all the way across. It won't hinder walking, it will make no difference, but there's a separate ventilator in each of the 4 sections. So if we plant things in rows from front to back, you're guaranteed you will not lose everything, even if 1 or 2 sections blow out. And as I talk about the compartmentalized greenhouse, the last thing we haven't discussed that I had mentioned, or that I had not mentioned rather, is that on one side I have completed a walkway, as I had like the walkway had on the belly of the cemetery. You can see it still, even through the window underneath here, there is a glass walkway. Now I can go up this elevator, and we have on top on this side a glass walkway. We do not have one on the other side as yet, but we will be able to look down at the ground or up above. It is also compartmentalized because it is only a single layer of glass. And it brings us down all the way to the neck of the ship. Actually overshot there, but go down here, and now we're in this upper causeway in the neck out to the main bridge. So the 2 bridges are now connected with a direct path. So the next major step is the storage. I'm working on putting storage underneath, as you can see. These are all the large cargo boxes. Overall, right at the moment, we have a little over 300 overall. These will get signified in the control panel eventually, but for now I'm still increasing them, or encasing them rather. As you can see, I'm working on putting blocks in, put another row of blocks, and then we'll paint them and get them set up in the control panel. Other things that I had completed, I have finished the digital logic for the sensors. As you can see, as I back off, they remain open until I get far enough away that I am out of range. But this should be close enough that we can open all the bays from inside and outside as well. I have also worked on the engine, the rear engine blocks a bit, and those are coming into shape. We need to have additional turret towers, much as I have done on the rest. I intend to duplicate that back here, as well as some radar decoration blocks and things along those lines. Also finished up down in the hover bay as well. I've added some hands-on storage in here for loot and incoming resources, and I've also enclosed the fuel tanks and oxygen tanks on the wall in truss blocks. Mostly a matter of decoration, just a matter of show. I have also changed the digital logic on the repair bay. It is now set with an OR, so it can be turned on either with the repair option in the main tab up here, or if you are simply in the hover bay, it will turn on automatically, as well as the lights that are around it when the hover bay doors are open and this field is active. But when we back out, you can see when the door closes, it does shut the lights off. Back out, there we go. But it does shut the lights off at the hover bay itself, so those only light when you're in range. And here we've made virtually final progress. The outer body is built. It is pretty much as it's going to be. Antennas and the like are all in place. Still needs a paint job, of course, and perhaps some textures. Also, I have completed inside. Do a little decoration in this room as well, but I've completed loot box labeling throughout the ship. There are loot boxes for both cargo and rated loot in all of the hangar bays, and the factory is all labeled for the basics. We have also included the doors in the logic of the circuits. And then underneath, we've just about finished the body. We're not quite done down here because the last step is in here. Each of these cargo boxes, you'll note, has an LCD. I'll be labeling those with the ones that I will be occupying, and then replacing the LCD with a combat steel block and then a combat steel wall. I'm just hoping that we do not pass the 25 mark in size. It's getting very close. As we take a look right now, we're 24.22 up here in the upper left. As you can see, it's nearly 50,000 sathium right now, so as it continues to grow, when we close this in, if need be, we'll have to thin out some of the outer shell and decor, because some of this is a few blocks thick that we can shorten up if need be. It's got to be very close to keep that 25 mark, but I think we can do it. Next, you'll just see me out in space as I'm finishing up the loot and the outer shell. Here we get a much better look at the bottom of the ship. You can see all the squares within the blue. That's a section I had not painted, you saw a moment ago, down on the planet, each of which has the cargo box in it. I've been considering best methods on how to do this. I was thinking at first I'll put a block in each one before I do the control panel. As I mentioned earlier, I have LCDs on each one, but I think I will remove those and simply fill them in with a block once I have added it to the control panel. It is time to begin the control panel. I had been holding that off until the very end, but at this point all the functional blocks are in place. All that remains to put on the ship will be protective combat steel. And here I'm making headway. Have most of the control panel set up. You can see the blocks that are filled in with white. Those are not painted yet. Those are the blocks that I have added to the other groups. As we zoom in a bit, We can just take a look at the control panel briefly. You can see the cargo's split up among several subgroups. Harvest still needs to be worked on a bit to figure out which one is the first. And the weapons. But most of the lights are in place and things like that. Weapons are where they need to be, but I need to figure out what to name them each. You know, the front right, front left, things of that nature. And here we have completed allocation. All of the cargo boxes that have a block over them now are in the control panel. The remaining 28, turns out, that are uncovered still need to be filled in. But as you can see, all the cargo, there's 46 set for blocks, 12 for character, on down the line, 170 for resources. That's the one that took the longest. So still more work to do on the control panel, and I will finish closing the skin in. It is nearly class 25 now, so by the time I finish that, it will be. We will finish the control panel for weapons allocations and then start looking at the greenhouse. And here we are on final approach to Kepler's base. Should be 200 by 200 blocks, or 200 blocks long at least, he said. We'll see if this is going to be big enough. We will see. And there is I'm not so sure, but we could be further away than I realize. It might work. It might work. We will see. Should be long enough. It's a question of whether it's wide enough. It's going to be real tight. But I think we're going to be able to pull this off. So, let's give it a shot. So, here we go. We're giving it a shot. Go ahead and hit the jetpack and hit the spawn button and see if we can line it up. I'll likely fast forward through a lot of this and see how it goes. So we'll set her up and let's see the mob. Oh, wait a minute. I need to get... I will set this up once again. And as you can see, most likely we've rotated to the other side because I realized I didn't have oxygen or fuel in me. So we'll give this a shot. Here we go. Let's see what happens. We hit spawn. Well, there he is. Let's see. I don't know if it's gonna fit on this base. The base is too thin. The base is too thin is the answer. So I will have to let him know. So with that failed attempt, we're off. Off to Wookiee Moon. As you can see on the screen, just saying farewell to Gamer Keller. And he knows about the ships and all that at this point. So the secret's out. But I will place, I can't even remember what I called it now. The Decay, the little drone magnet, which is just a little itty bitty base. Most of this gets stuck underground when it's placed. Just has a couple of cannon turrets around it. And a small landing pad and a growing plot, and I think there's a furnace on it. It's just enough to attract the drone's attention so the cannons can defend against the drones that come in, as I am building a 100 by 60 platform out of standard concrete on Wookiee Moon. So a change in plans, as you can see on the screen in front of you now. I am actually returning to Mars. He decided he is going to expand his base, so there's no sense in duplicating work and making an additional base. I will simply help him widen his platform to make it large enough, because it certainly is long enough. So back to Mars we go. And here we are back at the base. Apparently the ship coming by was causing some gravity shifts, which was causing him to fall on his nose, as he put it. But he's already working on it, and I picked up what 2,500 armored concrete blocks that I had already created. Looks like he's already marked out the extension, how far it needs to go, so I'll go ahead and just start building on from here. And we'll go from here and try to spawn the CV once again when this is complete. And as you can see in front of me, it is green. I can now spawn it. I'm going to let Gamer Keller know because he doesn't know I'm up here right now, but we succeeded in getting the pad large enough. So I will actually let him know and then bring you back since I can't type as usual. And as you can now see on the screen, he's ready. So here we go. See if I can get that sweet spot again. I know I did it by lifting up a bit. And where was it? Right in here. Come on. I had it green once. Jeez. Get this set once again and try this, then I'll bring you back. It took me a few minutes, but it finally flashed green. There it is. There it is. And here it goes. In 3, 2, 1, kabang! There is my new CV, and I am madly racing towards it as quickly as possible to hit it with oxygen and fuel in an attempt to keep the plants from dying, but I really do not think that is going to be terribly likely. All fueled up. And did I turn oxygen on? Now it's powered up. So there it is. There it is. I'll give him a quick tour, but I think this will probably just about wrap up our video. We'll do a brief tour as well after the fact to wrap it up, but at this point it's a lot of time moving to move stuff from the old CV. And here we now have it in place on Game Keller's base. As you can see, I have the cemetery sort of landed on the back. Broke a couple glass blocks as I was landing, of course. Cracked them and all, but it was just a quick repair. But it gives you an idea of the change in size. But I thought I would give you a quick tour of it before we actually start loading it with the ships. So we'll head down in, starting from the nose. I'll just fly in from the front. But this is the main cockpit of the ship. As we enter the front gate, you can see I have storage boxes on the floor. Then leads to, and this is actually the main cockpit, obviously, but a little bright right now because I do have the spotlights on. Should turn those off actually while we're aboard. Those are great for outside, but not required inside all the time. But the landing lights are not quite so blinding inside, yet still do light up below, as you can see underneath us through the glass neck. But this bay will contain 2 liches. As you saw, the ships were in place, of course, during the building section of this video. Just thought I would do a run through empty, as it's a much quicker run through. Have the elevators, of course, underneath. And back into the hangar bay. And go up this elevator to the main cockpit. And the plants, I did have to replant a bunch of them. There were, I think, 130 dead ones when I picked them all. So that did take a little extra time. For some reason the lights are not turning on. It does occur once in a while. Sometimes the motion sensors do not trigger properly. If I leave the zone and return, it's likely to turn back on. So I will just go down the elevator here and back in, and they should be on again. See that? Go figure. So we have everything planted, and that's basically it for the ship, though we do have some top entrances as well, which have been allowing me to get to the ship. Gives you an idea of why I parked the cemetery so vicariously as I did, because from up here I can just run up to it very easily and just use the control panel in the cemetery, and then just look down, and now I'm on the crypt. Very easy to move items back and forth when you're loading and unloading as much. Now from here we will run out across the front deck. As you can see, this is where the Spectre goes, which of course blocks your walkway, so this is much easier passage, of course. And downstairs to the skeleton bay, which also will hold the 4 bugs. And then back up to the neck, of course, and back to our round tour. And to wrap things up for now, really the remainder of what needs to be done over the next several hours of real time is I will spawn in the additional ships and move everything from the cemetery over to the crypt, and then I should be good to go and return to 501 to pick up the hover vessels. And then in the process of setting things up, I even did some repairs to some of the ships that were damaged on the cemetery when it was getting bounced around, as there were some issues with the gravity. But as you can see, it will fit even the largest ship, well, the widest, which is the skeleton, into the hangar bay. And I believe as well the Spectre will fit, though that might need to go in at an angle. One step closer, coming back from the front cockpit. Our liches are in, as are a pair of vampires and a pair of spirits. As we go upstairs, we find the Spectre, fly over it, and hurt myself landing. But then forward to the Spectre and 4 bugs. So now the Air Force is in place on the ship. It's just a matter of moving over the inventory from the cargo boxes, which in itself will take a while. Well, at this point, we're ready to roll. Everything is unloaded and packed up in the new ship. All of the vessels are in there, of the small vessels, that is. Next, we will head to Kepler 501. Before we do that, however, I am turning this ship over to Keller, who is here. But I just wanted to video this to show where this thing is designed to land, because it is kind of a tricky land, but if you do it nice and level with the O key, you can pull them in so they fit just right. It is tight fit, but as you can see, it works out very nicely if you take special care as you're landing. And there she is in her new perch. And here we get a look at our last farewells to the cemetery. Goodbye, girl. You served us well. Meanwhile, on to our new beast. Here we are, morning the following day, back on Kepler 501. We are all assembled. As you can see, it will land here. It's very tight. I believe I may have had a section in the creation of section of the video that had it like this, but that was by design, and it was large enough in the back to get the hover vessels inside from the deck. The upper corners there are now empty, which I had there earlier. So it's pretty much a question of what to do next. I think for now I'm going to take some time and just relax for a bit, collect some more resources and recover, because this was a rather expensive build, as I'm sure you realize. After that, the next objective will be to start looking into the missions. I'm not sure exactly how to go about that, but I know Grandpa and Mesmo are learning more all the time, and they're sharing the information, so we all are as well. I'm not sure which planet we'll start on. I just don't know. And what I do know is that I'm okay. It's the world that's all wrong. It's just a matter of perspective. I thank you very much for watching, and take care.